Okay, so this is from Ruth Buckle. I see the Kindle books are gradually coming out in German, and I was hoping that they would also be coming out on Audible at some point. Is that in the works at all? Question mark. I selfishly ask because it would be a wonderful way for me to practice my very rusty Deutsch. I learn best by listening.
That was beautifully read, thank you very much. And I can answer in one word, yes.
There you go.
The contract has been signed and they sent me the cover designs for the Audible in German yesterday. So the answer for Ruth is yes. This time yesterday it wouldn't have been, but...
Coincidentally, I have just sold the German language rights to Red Side Story.
Really?
Really, last week. Last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Do you find, here's a question for you, do you find, of your foreign language sales, are you finding that German is the biggest?
No, it's France, easily. I won an award in France. Yes, for innovative writing, apparently. But the French are going a storm on it.
Good. Good.
The Germans, yes, adequate. The Italians, less so. Oh, and I signed for the Finnish rights yesterday. So Finland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, very keen.
Good.
So yeah, it's interesting. But you're obviously doing very well in Germany.
In Germany, yeah. That's my biggest foreign market.
It's odd, isn't it, that you're in one country and I'm...
But after that, it's French. After that,
yes.
It's French. And I was speaking to my German publishers, and I said, you know, why is this? And they said very amusingly, they said, well, we basically import all our fantasy. You know? And I said, no, I mean, you must have some really good German, you know, fantasy, you know, that kind of thriller writers. And he went, no, not really. You know, it's a bit rude. And he said, well, you know, after, oh God, I forgot his name now. The Terry Gilliam movie, you've made a movie of it. Munchausen. Yeah, I said, what, so after Baron Munchausen, you know, like you basically sort of shot your bolt with that. And he said, yeah, basically. I think he was joking, but he said, no, the German readers do like to import, for some reason, they like to import a lot of their fantasy.
Interestingly, I had quite a tussle with my German publishers because they didn't want to call my character Dr. Maxwell. They wanted to call her Miss Maxwell.
Frau.
Thank you.
Frau Maxwell.
Or Frau. But because they didn't see that the word doctor was necessary, and I got very bent out of shape and issued for the first time in my life actually got. Well, I won't say for the first time in my life I got quite stroppy, but for the first time in my life I got authorly stroppy, because up until that point I'd always just been grateful, quite honestly. And I felt that this was actually wrong, and I didn't actually ask, well, if she was a male character, would you be doing that? But it came across in my email, I think. And in the end, the first one, it was too late for, that had already gone to press, and that is Miss Maxwell's something or other. The rest of them are now Dr. Maxwell, which is great. But I don't know if this was revenge or not, but they left the apostrophe out of Maxwell's, so it wasn't a complete victory. But yeah, and I actually said to Hazel, because you know I was in grateful author mode, and I said, how legitimate is it to make a complaint about this, that she's being deprived of her doctorate? And you know, it's Hazel, go for it, she said. So we did.
I don't think I've ever actually got. I love the idea where you said that you got all bent out of shape, and instantly I was thinking you were kind of like going like that. I don't think I've ever got authorial. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something.
I frightened myself.
Yeah, it does sound like you did actually. You're not generally like that. So. No, the grateful. I like the idea that being grateful is actually, I think, a good mindset to be in. You know?
Yeah, perpetually grateful.
Perpetually grateful and perpetually thinking. I can't speak for you obviously, but I perpetually think that my books aren't really very good at all, and often. Well, no, don't say are. And often you find actually that, and I do talk to people about writing, and actually that's the furnace that keeps you going and makes you better, because if you're not self-critical and you just go, yeah, that'll do, it's not going to work for you. So there is that, strange bit of me when I was a teenager thinking I was complete and utter rubbish that actually really helps in my writing, because I'm constantly trying to make it better, and that's why hopefully they're okay to read, because I just think they're not very good, and I want to try and make them better.
That's really interesting, because I have always felt that there's been a horrible mistake somewhere. And if Amazon wrote to me and said, we're sorry, there's been a horrible mistake, and these are not your sales, these are not your reviews, sorry, but tough, I would be very upset, but not that surprised. There is very much a feeling of it's all too good to be true, and I'm going to wake up in a moment.
I think we're on the same page totally. Imposter syndrome. I've had exactly that thing. It's like, there's been, I'm literally about to launch a book, and someone taps me on the shoulder, and there's been this terrible mistake.
I am terrified that it's always the next book that's going to reveal the fact that I'm not actually a very good writer. Everybody will suddenly be pointing the finger and say, you've taken us in over all these years.
How dare you?
But we're in good company, because I don't know if you've read Neil Gaiman's book about making art. And he has what his wife calls the imposter syndrome, that the literary police will turn up and arrest him for impostering a proper writer. And he really worries about it. And now so do I.
I think it's part of what drives us to write, because it's a very strange thing to do, sitting in our office inside our own head with a keyboard and just playing with this strange world full of characters doing all these things and stuff, and to concentrate on that fully and just endlessly try and improve it. I think there is that sort of level of, it's a curious mix. You have to be, there's this sort of sweet spot where you have to be insane enough to come up with these ideas, right, but not so insane that you can't get them down. So, we live in that little narrow sweet spot of being like, exactly.
And in my case, ever narrower.
It gets narrower and narrower. And do you have that thing where you've got an idea and it's like, then they're never going to go with this. This is way too out there, and you go, but they might. And you put it down anyway, and then 18 months later or whatever, and they say, yes, it's great.
I'm about to hit my publisher with an idea for Tempora, the time-travelling totty. And that is not going to go down at all well. I'm going to have to do a lot of work on that one.
Well, by the reaction, it's going to go down to 5. So don't worry. But my equivalent of that was that Thursday Next, my character who can read herself into classics, she has to escape from somewhere where they're trapped in this vault, and she's got nothing to read. So I go, well, what are you going to do? And then she thinks, oh, I got it. Have you got a washing label? And they go, yeah, I think so. And she reads herself into the washing instructions, where you just have a picture of an iron and stuff like that, and manages from there to get into a dishwasher manual, and from there into the real world. And I was writing this, and I was going, this is just way too stupid. Way too stupid. And I deleted it and then rewrote it and go, oh, to hell with it. And I asked someone years later, did you like that? And they went, yeah, that was totally Thursday, all the way. Because that's what she does. She's like totally awesome. She rocks. She's in a difficult place and bang, she's out. In any way you can do it. So,
Yes. It's got to be credible.
Yes.
No matter how weird or out there.
Yeah.
Some part of the reader's mind has got to accept it and think, well, yes, that could happen. It couldn't happen to me because I don't understand washing labels. everything gets washed on very cold at 20 minutes,
Yeah.
in the same way that everything gets cooked at 200 degrees for 25 minutes.
I mean, there's a good point here about what you just raised, and I think that's I think we should sort of preen ourselves a little, and the audience. And I always think that people who read, fantasy are much better readers because absolutely. And we're not saying that just because there's so many of you out there, but these are people to whom any idea is a potential story, right? This is an expansive, open, very welcoming sense of imagination and fun, and just a lovely way of looking at things. And I always think that, and we're going to bash, traditional authors now, the literary set, is that if you're just only into human drama and reading Booker winners, and you can't accept the idea that someone, can time travel or any of that, then I think it's a sort of, it's just a sort of narrow-thoughted reading. But I had to read I belong to a readers group, a writers' readers group, so you can imagine what that's like, not in a good way. And I had to read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, right? Now, this is a literary author who's trying to do what we do, right? And he hadn't realised that it has to hold together logically, right? And for anyone who's a huge Cormac McCarthy fan, I apologise, but me reading it, I'm going, okay, they're on a trip, they're on a road, and they've got a shopping trolley. Why do they have a shopping trolley? The wheels are tiny. I have trouble getting it even across the car park. Right? If this was a real, post-apocalyptic novel, then you would have thought about the logic of it. You would have bicycles, or you would have a trailer with large wheels. And then there's a sequence where these people are keeping humans locked up and then eating them. And it's like, okay, this doesn't make any sense, because then you've got to guard them, and you've got to feed them, and then you're going to eat them. And it's like, well, what's the point? Why don't you just eat the food that you were going to give to the cannibals? And it doesn't make any point from economics or anything at all. But it's there to make the story work. And clearly this is someone in the literary world who does not understand the genres. And, we make a world that is fantastic, and I mean that in a fantastical way rather than a hyperbolic, amazing way. But our logic has to fit together. And as long as our logic is consistent, then a fantastical world can work. And I think there's also a point about making it mundane or even boring as well, because our characters, of course, don't know they're in a fantastic world. They think it's normal. So maybe the skill, this was Terry Pratchett said, is one of the skills about fantasy is to make it dull and ordinary, because this is ordinary life. Anyway, sorry.